and me. From sunrise to sundown, we're making our way, building our legacy, day by day. Welcome to the Wild Heart Podcast, where passion meets purpose, homeschooling, home state, and living dreams that serve us. Together we're stronger, through every stormy weather. The Wild Heart legacy, bound forever.
Welcome to the Wild Heart Podcast. I'm Tony.
I'm Erin.
And what's our tagline?
This is the Wild Heart Podcast, where passion meets purpose.
Yes. Let's just rearrange the desktop a little bit so we can read
You're
this a
moving
little
things.
bit better. It's been a minute since we're on last.
Like a month.
Yeah. Normally we do this every 2 weeks, but this time we took a little bit of longer break. I think last time we were all a little bit under the weather in this house.
We had the plague.
It was going around. And we're
Still
still
have a cough.
we're still recovering, evidently. Pardon our coughage.
I'll make sure to cough directly into the mic.
It, I think, it has pretty decent noise canceling. Yeah, we have been busy. I guess what has been new in your world?
I have a space to do Reiki now.
So now you're
locally.
doing. That's
Yep.
We're essentially starting up a paused business, old business. What would you call it?
Yeah, like it. I don't know. Business 2.0. No, like I started doing Reiki back in 2017, and then that evolved into more and more different things as I grew in my energy healing role and all that jazz. And then I had kids.
What's the elevator pitch of Reiki?
Reiki is basically a Japanese healing technique that uses universal life energy that the practitioner, which is myself, channels into your body. The energy itself goes to where it's most needed in your body, and we can work on both physical and emotional issues.
I didn't know it was a Japanese technique, actually.
Yep. I am 7 steps away from the guy who created it.
That's cool.
Mm-hmm.
It's like, everybody knows somebody within 3 degrees of separation. That's the idea. I got my red seal.
Yes.
I'm officially a journeyman electrician
Hooray.
now. But today, I don't know, it's been a week. I had to get a few extra licenses locally for legal purposes, I guess.
Shits and giggles.
Yeah, just, I had to pay somebody so I can legally work in
As a journey
as
person.
a journey person. Journeyman, journey person.
Wow, yes.
Journey folk.
Journey folk, yes.
I'm a journey folker. But yeah, that's the long and short of what we've been really doing.
Recovering from illnesses, and
Yeah.
that's pretty much it.
So, what's our episode about today? What's the
The title for today is The Growth Mindset, Reframing Learning as a Process.
so
So basically, we want to talk about, growth mindset and how this kind of plays into learning.
yeah, so I mean, might as well jump right into it. What is a growth mindset? Opposed to, I guess first you have to know what is a growth in comparison to what. So, a growth mindset is
A growth in
is
comparison
the yin
to what?
to the fixed mindset, for example.
Okay.
Having the mindset that the whole world is static, versus you're either growing or shrinking, depending on your perspective. Some people would say that you are shrinking if you're not growing. So it's one of those things that that can affect your learning and perspectives and personal development as well.
Mm-hmm.
So in terms of adopting the growth mindset, I would say the biggest factor it has is on attitudes.
Okay.
So, in terms of if you have a growth mindset, most people would take it as you're always growing, you're always learning. Basically, I can do this. You shift from the I can't to the I can and I will. It's just a matter of figuring out how. It just empowers you a little bit more, I think.
It's more empowering than it is limiting. Excuse me.
We did a little bit of research on this. Do you want to go into the science behind of the growth mindset?
Yeah, so the origins of this kind of come from Dr. Carol Dweck's research at Stanford, and how it led, and it basically led to this formulation of the growth mindset concept. That's a hard thing to say for my tongue today.
It might affect your neuroplasticity.
Yeah, which is basically the brain's ability to form new connections. So with that, like, as we grow and change, your brain, how to phrase this?
Neural pathways.
As we grow and we're learning, our neural pathways are becoming very diverse.
Mm-hmm.
Once we hit a certain stage in life, and I think I've heard the number thrown around about like 35, our neural pathways are very set. And now you are running at more of a state of
automation.
And this is where that stat of like we only use 20% of our brain comes from. Because
most of it's automated at that point.
Yes.
Because we've essentially developed those grooves, if you think about
they're
it.
like patterns, behaviors, and habits.
Mm-hmm. You're in a rut, for example.
Yeah. So if you always drive the same way to work, that's a pathway. That's like a pattern that you're always going to follow. And so with this growth mindset, what that entails with the neuroplasticity is actually creating different neuro pathways and strengthening them through practice and perseverance. So instead of being just a one way to work type of person, trying to find other ways that you can also go so that you're exploring and expanding that reality.
I was literally just thinking about that. I'm like, I don't go to the same place every day because I go to different customers' houses all the time, and I've always had this kind of a job where like I don't have to worry about going the same place to work because it's always like I got to go to this customer's, I got to go to this customer, and it's always one of those things where it's just like, yeah, you use Google Maps, but you're also taking a different route all the time.
Mm-hmm.
And you just kind of, it's almost like an exploration of the city too, so it's kind of nice.
Well, and the really cool thing with, well, one of the many cool things about neural pathways is that like the more we use and adapt that neuroplasticity, the healthier our brains seem to be. I mean, we know so little about the body in general, in the grander scheme of the world. But yeah, it's interesting because if your brain is very neuroplastic, that's a weird way of saying it, but if your brain has
it's
lots
not
of
neuroplasticized.
If it's very malleable and you have lots of pathways doing all the same things, your brain is essentially healthier than what other humans might be.
That
do
makes
the
sense.
same thing over and over and over again. That's very repetitive.
So why does the growth mindset matter? For adults, obviously it could increase your resilience. There's the approachability aspect of it, of new skill. There's new skill acquisition. I am guilty of applying myself to many new hobbies all the time.
Then they become my hobbies.
Which helps your neuroplasticity.
Yes.
But yeah, I mean, just doing new things has always been a thing for me. For children, it explains how to build confidence. So just trying new things. We've always told our kids, what is bravery is being scared and doing it anyway, is kind of one of the things that I've said repetitively.
Mm-hmm.
And so, this also enhances their problem solving solving skills. It fosters a healthy approach to learning from mistakes, which, is one of the biggest things, that mistakes aren't a negative. They're just a learning opportunity. Just instilling that into your kids is one of the most important things you could possibly do.
Yeah. So shifting to a growth mindset, some key strategies here. So for adults, being able to share actionable strategies and reframing your failures. So instead of it being, like you said earlier, where you've made a mistake, oh, it's the worst thing ever, I've screwed up, it's horrible, blah, blah, blah.
Never do it again.
Yeah. Then you can actually take that failure, we'll put those in air quotes as well, and look at it from a space of like, okay, so that didn't work. What can I do differently next time? What can I do to build on this skill? What did I learn from this? Like, I like to look at kind of, anytime I do something that's new and I could have done things a little bit differently, like maybe it didn't go as well as I wanted it to, I always like to reflect on that experience and be like, like I said, what worked well, what didn't work so well, what did I notice that I needed next time, or what has changed, what can I do differently, and then also you can seek feedback, constructive feedback from others, in seeing if surveys, like if you're doing surveys could be very helpful, or
just
like,
even talking to the people, right? Hey, like whether it's something that you're doing for the first time, or what could have been done better,
what can I do differently next time to make this better for you?
Essentially.
And
but go ahead.
Oh, I was gonna say, my biggest, like the other one too, is just, you might not be able to do something yet. I can't do it yet.
Because
and adding that yet.
You haven't either gotten good enough, or you haven't practiced enough, or you haven't developed the skill yet enough. But it's a thing that will progress and get better over time.
Yeah.
You just, sometimes it's just a matter of not having a base knowledge, and you develop a base knowledge through time and experience, right?
I'd also like to tack on here that, perfectionism is the biggest, well, maybe not the biggest, but one of those things that stand in the way to growth mindset. I know for myself, I can get really stuck on, I want things to be perfect. I actually had an experience with our daughter the other day, because she found a hoop that I had wrapped in leather, and she's like, "What is this, Mama?" And I'm like, well, funny enough, this hoop was a hoop I was going to make into a dream catcher for you, but I'd never made a dream catcher before, and I got so wrapped up about making it perfect that I never actually did
Finished it.
And she's like, "It would have been the best dream catcher ever." And I'm like, and this is how I know that we've raised our daughter well, because she's like, instead of it being like, "Oh, don't worry, Mama," whatever, she's just like, "It would have been awesome. You would have done great," and like just a big little cheerleader over here.
And maybe you'll do it in the near future.
I have to find the supplies now, but yes, I can.
You don't need to. They are in the house, I assure you.
No, I have to find them. They're in my office somewhere, or somewhere where I have things.
Feeding off that, our daughter, in terms of strategies that we could do, just praising effort over results. So opposed to good job, good effort. I really appreciate you taking the time to, clean up your toys. I appreciate you setting the table. Never going, so you put the fork in the wrong spot. It's like, oh, that's really good, let's try putting the fork over here or something. Modeling perseverance, really just being, we are modeling through homeschooling, right? And always encouraging that learning perspective, really. What about our 1-year-old, almost 2-year-old?
Well, I'm just gonna tack on a quick little thing too with our daughter. I find that I'm starting to look at narrating what she's done. So if she's done something and I want to praise her for her effort, I might also be like, "Oh wow, look, you did XYZ, that's cool, like, or that's really awesome. That's a lot of effort that you put into that. I do the same thing for our little man. But for the little guy, my 21-month-old, normalizing trial and error. So, that's the biggest thing right now is he's learning through his experiences.
Yeah.
He trying to put on socks the other day, and he's like trying to get his foot up, and he's like pushing it on, but he's like me, and he wasn't able to put it on quite yet. But like I said, kind of narrating that, and then also demonstrating a little bit.
Yeah.
And encouraging that exploration. Really encouraging him to figure out his world and explore. And
just the other day, we'd given him some of the 3D printed nuts and bolts that we did.
Yeah, he loved those.
So it's essentially like a kid-size Phillips screwdriver, and so it's like he was practicing the idea of entering the screwdriver into the top of the screw, and just because he's seen me do the twisting motion before, but he doesn't have the grasp of what its purpose is, so he doesn't necessarily loosen his grip, so he was just twisting it back and forth. But allowing him, like, opposed to showing, and I'd modeled for him as well, but like just allowing him to practice just that entry of the bit to the screw was a skill in itself, and just allowing that to happen, and just allow him to explore it. And he's been really exploring all the little plastic tools that we have lately. So
yeah, he's starting to really look at the micro.
Yeah.
Well, maybe not micro, but he's looking into the smaller details of things, which is really fun.
Yeah. Seeing how they work, like even like we have his little plastic sawzall, and he presses the trigger and he sees the little blade go in and out, and I show him how to hold it, but then he grabs the blade to see what happens.
Yeah.
A good thing it's a plastic toy.
Very curious little dude.
But yeah, just seeing how it works, and it's obviously part of the whole experience, right?
Mm-hmm. Well, I think that's really important with the kids too, is that recognizing that just in general, they are like little sponges and they're trying to learn and figure out their world. And if you just allow them to have that space to learn and just explore their world and try to figure out how it all works, they will hopefully they'll be able to keep that growth mindset piece and always wanting to be learning.
Yeah, it's, for adults, obviously suggesting new activities, trying new things, documenting the journey, setting process-oriented goals. I think I believe I've mentioned to you, but having goals of trying to get out camping on a monthly basis is kind of a goal.
We've never gone camping as a family.
Yeah. Not in a tent formally
yet.
But don't worry, I'm looking for better tents.
Okay.
And for kids, in things, something like the a growth mindset jar, and like,
So
oops, cute. I learned board.
Oops, I learned.
So like, I learned this, through, instead of going back to the mistakes, it's just I learned. So that way you could visually and actively engage with a growth mindset instead of just passively.
Yeah.
So.
Well, and it like one of the things that I've noticed to kind of help reframe for our daughter is because I have found that she has a very low tolerance for fail. She's got a very low frustration tolerance. So far, and she really struggles with, like, if she doesn't understand something or if something doesn't come easily to her really quickly, she can get overwhelmed and want to stop. And so what I've been really working on with her is like, okay, give her moment to like cool down, and then bring her back to the activity and talk it through, right? Like, what happened? Where did you feel like you were failing, or like not quite use those words, but like basically discuss like what happened, where do you feel you went wrong? Like what was that piece that was really, upsetting to you?
What were you having trouble with?
Yeah, what were
How
you
can
struggling
we,
with? How can we help that?
proceed, maybe what do you need to know? And for now, let's try it a different way, or just encourage progress.
Yeah, I usually look at like, what did we learn from this, or what can we be learning from this, and if she doesn't have an answer, I'll give her an answer. I'll be like, oh well, if we jumped off of something and we hurt ourselves, what can we learn from this? Oh well, maybe we learned that we need to find a better way to land, or maybe we learned that this is too high to jump off of, right? Or whatever, right?
So, coming back around to conclude everything, when it comes to strategies and really at the end of the day, it's just a continuous journey, and you want to make sure to frame the challenge as a growth opportunity opposed to a negative. It's really, you just wanted to make sure that you're constantly reaffirming that mistakes and challenges are just opportunities for growth. If you have anybody who is watching or listening, if you have any phrases that you like to use, especially with your kids or anybody, let us know. Let us know in the comments, social media, wherever. Do you have any final thoughts?
Not really. I think, generally speaking, you and I are both very growth mindset people. I don't know how to phrase that, but we're very focused on the growth aspect of things. Like, I don't think there's much that really gets us stuck in that sense of failure. I think you and I are both very, we're hardwired to look for alternatives or other ways of thinking if we have failed, in quotations, right? And also recognizing, too, that if you are going from a more limited, fixed mindset and you're wanting to start going into a growth mindset, it's not all or nothing. You don't have to be like, everything's going to be great and it's going to be good and da-da-da-da-da. You can start small, right? You can start with, doing a little bit of reframing. And, maybe it's not all the time. Like, these changes take time to really fully implement and practice, right?
If you've been in one mode, going back to those neural pathways and neuroplasticity, if you're stuck in a rut constantly and you've been on that rut for 30 years, breaking out of it can be tough.
Yep.
That's why, it's so important to have that awareness and or guidance if you need it, right? Coaches exist for a reason, and counselors exist for a reason. Parents exist for a reason if they're doing this sort of stuff. But yeah, at the end of the day, there's a lot of ways that you could approach it. This is just another one. So we're kind of going through a little mini series of learning and different ways to learn. I had this idea when I was in school of learning how to learn, and just having the tools and the tool belt to be able to learn how to learn, because you're never gonna. The most important thing that we could teach our kids is how to learn, and really whatever they're interested in from that point forward is up to them. And once they have the will and the knowledge of how to learn, have at her. So this was just another tool in the tool belt. If you like this sort of content about homeschooling, homesteading, and anything else that falls under this, anything in between, we give us a like, follow,
subscribe.
We do this normally every 2 weeks on the Wednesday. We will do our best to do this again in 2 weeks, and
notwithstanding any more plagues.
Yeah.
to hit the
Always.
household.
Always. So, thanks for tuning in. I'm Tony.
I'm Aaron.
And have a good night.
Take care.
Where the heart beats free. We're crafting our dreams, just my family and me. From sunrise to sundown, we're making our way, building our legacy, day by day. Welcome to the Wild Heart Podcast, where passion meets purpose, homeschooling, homesteading, living dreams that serve us. Together we're stronger through every stormy weather. The Wild Heart legacy, bound forever. With hands in the soil and love in the air, we're teaching our young ones how to live and care in this simple life where the lessons are real. We're writing our story with every turn of the wheel. So join us on this journey where the wild hearts roll.